Welcome back. I'm Kay Lockhart of Know Yourself Well, and I specialize in higher mind mastery, which is your intuition, your intention, and your integration at its pure potential. Today, Jenny and I are on our third episode in the series called STAR Decoding. And I can't wait to introduce my lovely partner in crime. Jenny is from Long Island and is a specialist in human design and maximizing your original design through that modality.
Thank you. So I wouldn't call myself an expert in human design. I'm an expert in, I think, kind of like sussing out and decoding and looking at people's cosmic blueprint and figuring out how to harness your powers for good, because you can harness your powers for bad. Yeah, excuse me. So yeah, anyway, that's what I do, and I'm so excited to be here with you. And okay, tell them who we chose to do and what we're doing today.
This was Jenny's suggestion, and at first I thought interesting, and then the more I started to do the research on this, what a fascinating chart, and not necessarily enchanted. She's definitely got some things working against her, and it's been interesting to see how she handles obstacles and turns it into lemonade. We are talking about Ariana Grande today.
Yeah. Yes. So Ariana Grande. I could show the human design chart first, or you could lay it up with the astrology. What would you like to do first?
Let me tease people with the astrology, and I think it's time, since it's so close to what you know the most about. Let's start with human design today. Although I will say, for context, Ariana Grande's big three, she has a sun in Cancer, she has a moon in Libra, and she has a rising sign or ascendant in Capricorn. And we'll take a look at the three acts of her life, of what she has to work with, where she went with free will, and is she having a date with her destiny now.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so I'm going to share her chart. Looks like this in human design. And she is a 2-4 splenic projector, which there's a lot of information in that, in those three things. So we'll start with the very first thing that you can look at when you're looking at the chart that's so fascinating about her. See, projectors are what we've done before, like when we looked at Jim Carrey as a generator and Tony Robbins as a manifesting generator. A projector's different. Only about 20% of the population. It's there's fewer people who are projectors. But the way projectors are designed, and I am one myself, which is why I kind of know this also because of the digging I've done in my own chart. But she's a splenic projector where I'm an emotional projector. And what that means is projectors are the guides. They're the ones that can help shine a light on things. They're the ones who must be invited to be heard and seen. There's kind of a projection field. If you've got a 2 or 5 in your design, and she's got the two, um, a lot of people will project onto you what they think you are more than probably who you even really are. And so Ariana has that happening to her, but for other people, because basically what that is you're holding up a mirror for other people to see themselves. They will think that what they're seeing is you. So let's say if someone doesn't really have a lot of self love, and they're looking at Ariana and they get all vitriolic on her, like, oh, she's right. And they're all, That's who they are, not Ariana. She just is showing up like with that mirror to say, hey, this is who you are. But the two is a projected energy, and it's an invitation energy. That's why you really have to wait for the invitation, which is the strategy of a projector. We are not designed to just go do as we want, consistently, without it having some kind of mass effect on populations. So in other words, like if a projector is working a 9 to 5, and this is just an example, if you're working a 9 to 5 and you feel kind of like a slave to your circumstances, you're living out of integrity with your design. you're actually here to guide, not be the labor force. Like you're here to be the manager, or like in the way I like to think of it is like in quantum human design, they call projectors orchestrators. So imagine in an orchestra, the conductor saying, okay, now a little bit of that and a little bit of that. We're the ones who can say, oh, now you turn that up, turn the volume down on that, throw in a little bit of this. And it's like all of a sudden we're helping create a beautiful symphony. And
I
so
can,
Ariana is doing that um, in her work. She's also, if you see here in the center, you see this gold square, that's her throat. That's a defined center. And it's unusual for me to see a defined throat in a lot of projectors, just because of the people I've looked at. But it makes sense here because she doesn't have a channel that goes into her sacral. So it's not the same as a generator. In other words, she's the spleen, this defined triangle down here, the colored in gold triangle down here, that's the spleen. So when you're a splenic authority, you basically get hits of intuition and you are constant, and it's very unpredictable. Like you just have to know they're coming. Like you have to have faith that that's just how I operate. I get a ding and then it's like, yep. And so for her to get this hit of inspiration, I see it in her songwriting. I see her, that's, and it, see how it's not attached to her throat. So it's almost like she's not, what she's putting out there is her hit on what's happening with her, but it's going to be in the projection field. So people resonate with what she's singing about, even though she even names her boyfriends and names herself in her songs, people hear themselves in the songs. And that's what probably makes her so popular. The other thing about 2-4 is they're known as the easy breezy genius. So basically, she just has to show up and show herself, and she will be successful. I mean, unless you're living in the down, really low frequencies, which, hey, we all do. We dance around in all the places. But so she's this easy breezy genius that's here to share messages through her voice, and she's the voice of alchemy, which is basically being in this now moment. Like right now, I'm over you. Right now, I'm in love with you. Right now, I'm over you. Thank you. Next. Like it just makes so much sense.
yes. Oh, that's wonderful. One of my questions, and I've benefited greatly from you being a projector to my manifesting generator. You've been one of my top catalysts of 2025. What does this wait for the invitation look like beyond the concept of that? How does that play out in life?
So literally, you have to wait till somebody says, "Hey, Jennie, can you help me with this? Hey, Jennie, I'd like to know what you're doing." Or, "Hey, Jennie," like it literally looks like it can also, like with Ariana, right? When you buy her music, you're inviting her message into your world. When
Yeah.
you and fours are the natural networkers. Twos are a hermit. Fours are the networkers. So basically, when I can go and say, hey, Kay, would you like to do X? And it's not, I mean, it's a 50-50 at best coin toss on if that's going to inspire you into action, and probably won't. But if you said, hey, Jennie, I see you were talking about something. Can you tell me how to do that? Now I'm going to be, whatever I say, you're really going to be able to absorb because you've invited me in. And now, because projectors have a different aura, we have a cone-shaped aura that deep penetration into one person at a time. So while we can be like Oprah's a 2-4, so you can be on stage and lots of people see you, and Ariana's a 2-4. Like, I mean, you can be up there and people see you. And when they buy tickets to go see her in concert, like that's the invitation. She's now been activated to share energetically and everyone will receive it. But if she
Okay.
were to just like get up in the middle of a restaurant, stand on a table and start singing because, she felt like it, she kept probably booed off the table and sit down but I'm Ariana. Like, oh, and they would just say all these things about how she's so pompous and whatever. She wasn't invited. You have to stay in your lane of invitation or else it does not work out well.
This makes it so much clearer as to how I reached out to you is because usually I'm usually knowing who's a no for me. I don't always get the strong yes, maybe because I've got an entire circus of skills under my big top. But I do remember asking you about your services, just like with Kaz, is I reached out and said, how can we work on this project that's outside your offer suite? And that makes sense because when people ask me, "Hey, Kay, can you try and do this thing?" I sit with it, and I'm like, that kind of pulls me out of my lane. I'm not so sure. So invitation is not as recognizable for me as it would be for a projector.
Yeah, it's that's the word, recognize. You have to not just be invited, you have to be recognized for the expertise that you have to offer. And not everyone, that's why I think it's just so interesting to be a projector because if you if you're like, but I did everything they told me to do and it's not working, it's because you're forcing out and we're not that.
Yep.
We can do whatever we want and we need to be seen doing whatever we want. We can be, I mean, Ariana can do
Got
anything
that.
she wants to do
Yeah.
and she can be successful at all of it. But someone has to say, hey, would you be in my movie? Hey, would you come write this song with me? Hey, would you? So you see her do a lot of collaborative work. And she
Yes.
does a lot of like, even her songwriting, she's always, it seems what little I, do know about her, she seems to collaborate kind of a lot. And that's really makes sense. I think not all projectors love collaboration not be a word they think of because sometimes we're guiding just one-on-one. I do a lot of one-on-one work, and Ariana also her whole design is set up to really be moving people in small groups, right? But those small groups might be a movie company. You see what I'm saying? Instead of like the whole. So I see
This
her
makes
very much living her design.
And it does fit so beautifully with her astrology as she is wired to want to relate with others on projects, whereas I'm more of a I'm more of the Prometheus is I'll go up to the mountaintop, I'll still the fire and I'll bring it back down for all of you, but that's the extent of my involvement. You didn't ask me to do it. I did it myself. I gave it to you and I don't need any sort of fanfare about it. Whereas if we're going to look at her chart,
Yeah,
she
show us what we're looking at here.
She's very much the opposite of me is she's incredibly magnetic, whereas I can be very electric. I can start fires wherever you need it. I can, bring light wherever it's dark. She has this ability to make you get delegated without even knowing that's happening. So let's take a look at her first act. Let's go into, am I co-hosted?
Oh, did I not? Sorry. Yeah. Don't you guys love tech? It's like,
All the
oh,
time. It
oh
never,
yeah.
all right, let's go into, Ariana's good stuff here. Okay, so like I said in the beginning of this video is there are parts of her chart that are incredibly enchanted, and she also has some serious obstacles in life. And we're going to take a look at how she has masterfully woven that into her entire being instead of picking and choosing the parts that only serve what she thinks she wants or only make her look good. I appreciate that maturity in her, and that is right in her big three. So here we go. We're starting with the ascendant again. She has Capricorn as her rising sign, which is going to give her the persona, the main character of disciplined, ambitious, excellent at timing, very structured, and kind of precocious, a little wise and sophisticated beyond her years. Her first professional performance was age 8.
Yeah.
That's what was I doing when I was 8? I was trying to
She
fit
didn't
into,
come out of nowhere, that's for sure. She's been working on this her whole life.
yes, long before she knew what anything else was. And you could say, all right, that's dangerous, that's child labor, except she had smart family, and we'll get into that too. However, and we will come back to this in a different form, is we're looking at these two planets that sit smack on the exact same degree. We have Neptune and we have Uranus. Hold that. Let's go to the other two ingredients in her big three so that we start to have a formula or a recipe of her before we get into the sauce. Let's go into her moon. Her moon is in Libra. And what that's going to do is governing her emotional IQ as well as her sense of comfort, home, and probably a level of intuition. She's got that where mediation is a gift for her. It is considering and balancing and harmonizing others. So this is one note that helps with that collaboration that we recognize in her. She's got harmony down. She's going to be very aesthetically driven because that's what gives her those feel goods. Balancing with others is also going to be a priority for her. And we'll talk about the planet that accelerates that and amplifies it a little bit later down the road here. Lastly, we have her sun right over here in the sign of Cancer. And what that's going to do is, again, enhance her emotional IQ. This is somebody who has one of the biggest spectrums of feelings that fully articulate around emotions. She understands the difference between I'm sad versus I'm depressed. I'm annoyed versus I'm angry versus I'm furious. This is somebody who is almost a master painter of, you remember when we were kids and you could either get the 8-pack of Crayola crayons and then, you know, the fancy kids had the 64 full range with the built-in sharpener. She has
Uh-huh.
she has an unlimited palette of being able to handle feelings, emotions, and impressions, which to me shows up in her fluidity in her multiple arts. This
Yeah.
is somebody very creatively fertile. This is somebody who's going to have sensitivity. This is somebody who's got profound empathy and devotion, and it's in direct contrast as a sign to her rising. So the main character she's playing and her methodology, pathway, and impersonal toolkit are night and day from each other. And that's an interesting position to be in. And I've got my opposition between my ascendant and my moon sign. So people see me one way, and then when they get my emotional side, like, oh, that's a lot of contrast. Mm-hmm. Because I'm going to very different elements in what I have to work with. So those are the
Right.
first three. Let's look at the key houses of how Ariana has been set up. The first house is very important simply because of these two elements. We've got Neptune on the ascendant, which, as much as we talked about that structure, Neptune blurs lines. Now we have somebody who isn't fully defined as a persona. It's
Mm.
more vague. It's more
That's that
nebulous.
projection field right there. That's what that's how that happens. Yeah.
It's so compatible with her human design. Like these two fit together so beautifully. And so there's a higher realm. There's going to be a spiritual outlook on a lot of what she's doing. But you also have Uranus right there. Uranus is like the Tower card. Uranus is a lightning storm. And she's going to be her own plot twist in life.
And that's also the splenic part of that sudden hit. Like she gets sudden things
Yeah.
happen.
It
Hmm.
looks out of the blue, but it really is just she has internal cathartic moments and expresses them in real time because, and this will come into play later, the chart ruler of her with a Capricorn rising is going to be Saturn. And we'll
Right.
discuss why she missed the mark on one critical awakening in her life. And sometimes you do well making lemonade out of lemons, which she did, but this was her first misstep in life. And based on how she's built, she's probably learning 5 lessons for the price of one with that one.
Mm.
So we've got the first house that we've talked about, all these conjunctions. This is somebody who's very out of the box. She's mentioned she struggles with anxiety. You'd think with Capricorn, she has it all buttoned up, but you give an electric planet like Uranus right on top of yourself in the exact same degree. And that's a lot of static that needs to go somewhere. And as prolific as she is, that's not how you flush your pipes all the time.
Yeah.
That's important. This is somebody who's going to be seen as a genius. And we jump down to the fourth house, and she's got Taurus on the fourth house, and she's got her Venus there. And this makes me happy because it means that there's going to be a home base of comfort, beauty, and family. And she has spoken often about the impression, the closeness to her grandmother, her nana, the big dealness of her parents' divorce. And that is in her chart as well. When you have
I
a
see
sun,
it. Yeah.
when these two, sun and moon, are square, that means that, dad and mom are probably going to be at odds, and you might be the product of a divorced home. I am. I
Right.
have my sun squared as well. I
Right.
was cheering it on. I went, please break up. So Ariana, she has Venus in her fourth house. She wanted house of home and family harmonized and beautified. And she will come back to that again and again in life. You get two worlds. You get your inner world, you get your outer world. It's the fourth and the 10th house. They're important. So this is also somebody who grew up around a lot of business people, because a great way for Venus to step in Taurus is, how can I build as beauty? And that building aspect is relevant. The last house that I want to take a look at in her formative years, we're not going to get to her Mercury just yet. We're going to talk about Chiron, because Chiron, the sooner you learn your Chiron, the sooner your life gets a lot easier. And I can't say that enough. I triple down on that. Her Chiron
This
is in
is
Leo.
true.
This is going, and it being in the seventh house, this is going to be discomfort around full self-expression. And if we take a look, there were a lot of boundaries broken or compromised before she became a full adult. This is somebody, she wasn't a Disney kid. She wasn't a Mouseketeer. She went Nickelodeon, and Nickelodeon has a massive scandal on it. This was very challenging. She did not love the idea of her character's hair getting dyed red every single week for filming. It
Right.
broke the, and here's where she made lemons out of lemonade, or lemonade out of lemons with damaged hair. That's what created that signature ponytail top knot extension thing. That's the only way you could pull all the damage up to a common point and then style it kind of, I Dream of Jeannie. And that
Right.
became a look that she branded herself as that for a very long time. So that's the beauty and a little magic of Capricorn ascendant, is if you give them a mess, they will turn it into a message. They're really smart with that. But back to Chiron, this is somebody who's going to have a very hard time with uh, a sense of belonging, going to always have a bit of wobble around relationships and partnerships with others. This is someone who has had a lot of legal situations following them, even from an early age. I think her first lawsuit that got dismissed was before she was 18. She had
Wow.
the she had the Forever 21 deal, which is a clothing line where they failed to realize a compensation for her that would have made her say, yes, I'll license my image and my music. And then they went ahead and got a lookalike and then unauthorized use of her music. It was a $10
Wow.
million lawsuit. So
Wow.
she had to do that. She got sued over what one of her songs, Seven Rings, because some guy said, you're plagiarizing, you're, appropriating hip hop, da da da. She fully disclosed, I am running favorite things from Sound of Music. I've credited Rodgers and Hammerstein in my notes. They are getting royalties
Right.
on my music, and I'm pushing it through this genre. If you went and did that through this genre, but didn't credit them, who's the plagiarist? So she's no dummy. But
Right.
man, Chiron in the seventh is, I'm grateful mine's not there. Mine's in the 11th. I have struggled to belong to community. So I had to go and build one from
You're
scratch.
my, you and me both.
Yeah,
Yes.
but she even her makeup brand, r.e.m, is getting sued by a company called R.E.D. Now her makeup has been around for years, but they're saying, you copied. little, tardy to the party. And you copied our name and you're copying our branding ideal. It's just, girl can't get break.
Wow. That's
I
wild.
if she was my client, if she was my best friend, I'd say we need to do some Chiron magic. We need to break this down to subatomic elements, find an empowerment formula, and then you go and you start influencing and swaying your life, your circumstances, and your results beyond what you keep reacting to at the level of its occurrence. I'd do it for free. Ariana, call me.
Yes, call Kay. I see a water trine in there too, right?
You know what? We'll get into that in Act Two, but we will say that the challenge with that Chiron in the seventh is it will play out in her adult romantic relationships. I wanted to go into the business and legal first, something
Yeah.
personal. So I'll stop sharing and we can go back to you.
Well, the fun fact that I thought was interesting, like when you're touching on this, right? One of her greatest gifts, and this is in her radiance code, right? Um, is the so if you think of the gene keys with this contracted energy, it's about opinions. And so that's what I'm saying. She really have a big opinion about her. But the the way that as you expand, you get a little more farsighted and then you become omniscient. And that's where she is that. And I think now I see looking at the chart, it's because of the Capricornian um structure that's the skeleton of her design. I mean, is that what we're getting at? Is because it's her first house?
It is, and she's going to be gifted with an innate sense of self through karma, time, order, even
And that's her big thing, right? Is the timing. So the timing for her is and this is her audience. This is who she serves best, are people that need she is the voice of alchemy. They want presence, they want to feel live, they want to feel solid, and they're listening to her as she gets dinged with like intuitive like hits of like, oh, and her timing will probably be really good. You're saying she missed some opportunity, but I just think like maybe as she gets even older, she's just going to master time, even though she's a projector and not a manifesting generator. It's a lot of interesting when you have a splenic projector, it's just a little different than some other every projector is different, so I shouldn't say that. It's just that it's been fascinating to look at her chart. um she does, it says like contemplate life without attachment and speak the truth in the right timing, and that's her thing, right? And also what's big in her chart, it's doubled down in like three different places in human design, is the wholeness. It's the like um wholeness, healing, and potential in all things. In other words, she just sees the beauty in everything. When I think of Glinda the Good Witch, she
yeah.
was perfect for that because she almost is Glinda the Good Witch in real life.
Yep.
I was
Yeah.
like,
Audition.
oh, this makes so much sense. That's who she is. Yeah, exactly. So go ahead, show us more.
Okay, well, then let's take a look at more. And I'm glad that there's so the gap between human design and astrology in her particular charts is so congruent. It's fascinating to
Well, when
just,
you look, yeah, if you look at this is where we can see like all of on the sides, you can see in the subconscious and in the conscious personality all the like Mercury, Mars, like all the astrology's in there. So when I can see it confirmed through an interpretation of her astrology, I'm like, oh, that's that. Oh, that's that. Like it makes so much sense. Yeah,
she just feels like the one closest of the three that we're doing so far. We're not going to reveal four and five for you yet because there's no fun if there's no surprise.
exactly.
But to see that they really are the exact same energy spoken two different ways, whereas we've had to nuance a little and find the connection or intersection with Jim Carrey and Tony Robbins. This one was fun, and what a great suggestion. So let's go into Ariana's second act. Now she is out of her formative years. She is into an adult version of herself and career.
Right.
Let's go back. Okay. So now we're going to talk about some specific planets where obviously you're no longer being modeled by your formative years, your family, you're in charge of your decisions now, you're out on your own. This is your first decade of adulthood. She's only 32, which is why it was such a fun chart to do, is Jim Carrey and Tony Robbins are in their 60s.
Exactly.
But because she's a master of time based on the gift of being a Capricorn rising, she's so busy being in space instead of time that it's no accident that there was so much accomplishment and achievement early and often. You know,
Yeah.
people get there faster. And for once, we can't say, like many other pop stars, oh, your family pulled the finish line closer due to their influence or their cash or no, her parents were divorced before she really got her stride. It was just, here were these things that were presented to her, and she was an easy yes to them, which to me is not only a function of timing, but also energetic compatibility.
Yeah. And she got that invitation. She was recognized for
Yeah.
her talent. Yeah.
To go from a performance for, I think she sang the Star Spangled Banner at a professional hockey game when she was 8. That's
Wow.
kind of crazy because, when I go to hockey games, if you told me an 8-year-old's performing, I would probably, find my way to the snackies or the bathroom or something. I wouldn't.
Right.
So that's a big swing. And then she's cast in a Broadway show, and then she's on a Nickelodeon TV show, and then she's getting a record deal, and just whoa.
Yeah. Recognition, recognition, invitation, invitation. Yeah.
And they even
Cool.
asked her when she was 14, what kind of record do you want to make? And she said R&B because her heroes were Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey. The only person that I can think of off the top of my head that has a bigger vocal range than four octaves is Mariah Carey. But
Yeah.
Ari and Mariah both have that whistle register, which is a very challenging space to go to because you have to be biologically designed to have vocal cords that can sustain that. I am not a soprano. You can hear the bottom in my speaking voice. I couldn't go there with all the training in the world. So I'm
Right.
just not going for it. It's like
Yeah.
I'm also not 6 feet tall. I'm not going to be a power volleyball player. I work with what I got.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So what is challenging is she is going to make her own rules and she's going to deal with a lot of projection. This is again that Uranus Neptune on the ascendant coming back is it's undefined. It's got some nebulous elements to it, but it's also got some I'm my own plot twist. I'm eclectic and eccentric and erratic and all of it. So we're seeing that in the beginning of her 20 something career. It was, in my book, meteoric. It was very prolific. But the houses we're going to look at, as far as what really matters in her first decade of adulthood, is we're going to go right over here to the sun in the sixth house. At first, you think, oh, she's going to shine in the sector of life that deals with service and working and routines. Yes, and see what I did there? That's one of her songs. Uh, the sun in the sixth also means there are going to be some enemies to overcome.
Okay. That
Six and
makes more sense because I was going to say, looking at her midheaven, I would think of her as just being a song singer, transforming lives through her,
oh,
songwriting and talent.
not her third act. She has to go through her, hey, now here's me all grown up and I still have free will. I haven't quite surrendered me and moved into we yet. I'm not in my fate and destiny just yet.
Right.
You
Right.
have, you have some layers like the Russian dolls. You have to peel all those off before you get down to your original design. So she's going to do that. And there's a beauty to her shining through these things and overcoming. The beauty of having Capricorn as a rising is there's a lot of latent failure is not an option. So when she has somebody coming for her, there's already oh, this is going to go badly for you, which I love about her. She's not cocky about it. She's just not entertaining waves of vulnerability that normally a Cancer sun, if it were in a different placement, would.
Okay. That makes
Cancer
sense.
moon, it'd be so subjective. If Cancer was her rising, it'd be so personal. But because it's her sun and it's her essence, that rising is really her best friend in all of this. It's her sword and shield, and
Right.
she's betting on herself.
Right.
So that's an important place for that sun to be. And if you look, she has had more than her fair share of what started off, some people say you got to kiss a lot of frogs and you'll find a prince. She attempted to kiss a lot of princes and found some frogs in her
Right.
20s. Not
Yeah.
These were not great associations. She had open enemy overcomings. We watched it bit by bit. If it wasn't the public, if it wasn't the news, if it wasn't the contempt of other women with projected misogyny, if it wasn't people going, you're trying to do too much, too young, if it wasn't the, oh, wait, you're too exploratory, why don't you commit? She's not built to be linear. So her exploration is her natural expression. She's healing her Chiron while also, let's go to the second one, there's her Mercury in the seventh house, and the Mercury's in Cancer. This is going to be somebody who is profoundly verbally and emotionally articulate. And
Yes.
in her first couple albums, her first two to three, she enjoyed the co-writing process. It wasn't until I think Sweetener that she really took the reins and said, I'm graduating from actor to director to producer in my little music play here, as far as my recording contract, which I think is absolutely beautiful for her. She's going to have a business mind because when you put Mercury in the seventh house deals with karmic contracts, karmic relationships. Again, it can be a house of enemies, but Mercury is so agile that this is not the primary designator of where her problems lie. So
I
this is
see.
a good place. And she's going to use her voice for others, not just the talent of the singing, but look at the number of ensembles and collabs that she's done. Whenever it's some recognition of a famous
Absolutely.
diva,
Yes.
she's one
Hmm.
of the first people to be, quote unquote, as you say, invited. We're
Yep.
recognizing Aretha Franklin. Here comes Ariana Grande singing Natural Woman and moving Aretha to tears. Here comes Aretha's Celebration of Life. We call Ariana. Here come, VH1 divas. Let's get them all out here. Here, da 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 da. She's always on the quote unquote podium with not just her voice as its performance tool, but if you listen to her interviews, the poise and the inclusivity that she has when she speaks about them.
Yes.
Let's take a look at how Mercury played out when there was the terrorism act on her concert in England, where the bombs went off and many attendees were killed.
Right.
She was absolutely gutted. She still
Yep.
says to this day the PTSD of being an adjacent part of other people's fatality while trying to give joy.
Yeah. Yep.
Really, that's going to be a mark that sticks around for a while. No amount of therapy or uh, reinventing that is going to change. That is a profound transformation that she went through. However, within moments, she offered to pay for funeral costs for anybody who was disadvantaged. She called a good friend who had also been through the childhood star rodeo, Miley Cyrus, and they put on a benefit. And she was able to lock in giving that gift once again,
Yeah.
even though inside she's just shredded and devastated.
Yeah.
That Capricorn rising is your filter, it's your persona, how you see the world and how the world's going to see you. We have ourselves an ambassador type in this one.
Right. Makes
So
so much sense. Yep.
true. And then the last thing that we're going to take a look at is up here in the ninth house is we've got her moon with a close, I won't say it's, it's not stacked, it's not the same degree, but it is a 1 degree orb there between Jupiter and the moon. And I have this as well, but I'm lucky mine's in Capricorn. It buffers all that otherness and feeling. This is somebody who is going to have a strong belief system, very goodwill. She's an incredible philanthropist, and she's constantly thinking about how to make it better for everyone.
Yep.
There's a type of travel here. It doesn't necessarily mean literal, but this is where we start to get a glimpse of her third act. Is this is in the house of higher learning, teaching, wisdom, philosophy,
Yep.
exploration of cultures. We see that in her musical genres. Each album progresses on what she's mastered in the last one and evolves. However, with Jupiter in Libra, she's going to expand and amplify all the arts for herself. The moon being so close to it, this is somebody who can get emotionally overwhelmed. It's in a sign that makes it very challenging, where she can lose herself in
Yeah.
being with others for too long or too deep or
That's
too.
that's one of the things that projectors go through.
Oh,
Yeah.
that one's a rough one. Now, I will shine. I don't normally do this because we don't want to make it too many moving parts, but she has, as much as she's got these beautiful things, she's got some hard pulls. Let's take a look at Mars and Saturn, the two what we call malefics or challenge planets instead of charm planets. Her charm planet is Venus here with her family, and her other charm planet is here in the arts. Her challenge planets, she's got Mars in the eighth house. So, what is she willing to fight for? She will fight for transformation, she will fight for depth, and she will fight people who are trying to power play her. And that's where she can't turn it off. It's wired into her that when you come for her, she's not going to lay down. She's not going to, buy you off and make you go away and shove you in the closet. But it also takes its toll because Mars is in the sign of Virgo, which can be very detail oriented, and it pulls her out of her big picture dreaminess, Neptunian energy as sense of self.
Right.
So she
Right.
has to compartmentalize and go be an altered ego to do this. And she kind of hates it. And do crap. It's in opposition to her Saturn,
I
which is
see.
her chart ruler. So Saturn is right there. And the reason why Saturn is tough is because that handles the Capricorn rising. That's her home planet. And while it's kind of like your secret weapon, it being in the second house means that there can be a lot of delays around financial gain, evidenced by all these other people showing up to challenge and have conflict with her. So, like I said, this is not a chart that is pure chef's kiss. It is a balance of here are
Right.
your gifts and here are your obstacles. So let's take a little pause on Act Two, and I'll stop sharing.
No, that's okay. I mean, the only thing that I had to share about the messages really were about, see, she's going to be going into that we stuff because she's about the gate of correction is her gift, which is seeing the wholeness. And that's what I think projectors are great with Gestalt. Like we just see the whole thing. And because we see the whole thing, it's about discernment, right? Then you have to really harness discernment. So I think that's the messages that she starts sharing is that it's empowerment. A lot of projectors are about empowerment, and she's no different really in that area, but she's definitely I think we'll see her grow into being even more of what we've been talking about. She's really already very actualized, self-actualized,
Very
and
much
she's
so.
so young. So, I would imagine we just see fabulous more from her. And yeah, she has her challenges, but we all do. But
Oh
she's
yeah.
already as a projector, your not self is all about jealousy, bitterness, and all these things. And I see people trying to get her there, and she just won't go there.
I think that her bitterness, if I were to take an educated guess, doesn't show up in a classic format of jealousy, I think the bitterness is so challenging for somebody who's so naturally exuberant and effervescent to express that it probably comes across as just being depleted and worn down
And
and
flat. Yeah.
flat and losing, losing momentum, defaulting to resignation. And this is
Right.
somebody who she's such a, it's so not like her, but we'll talk about her Saturn return for a second. We don't need
Well,
the
go
tarot.
ahead, take us out. Yeah, let's
Will.
do it.
Her Saturn return came at a time where her marriage, and she's been engaged a couple times, and she's mentioned, she says, I love home and I really find myself in others, which be careful, that could be a little codependent. You want to be very well defined, but she's not built to be very well defined. So there's no crime scene here. There's no harm, no foul. If the way that she's going to say, I know who I am is because you're my mirror. Now I just have to pick a good mirror, which didn't really happen in her 20s. We
Right.
had multiple
It
relationships with,
doesn't for most of us in our 20s.
yeah, you're so busy getting excited about being chosen that you're not really, doing your detective work on how this is going to go.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? I mean, you can't be a prophet
I,
of
no.
life.
And I don't falter for it. It's fine.
Yeah, there's blind spots are there for a reason. Otherwise, you'd know exactly how it's going to go, and you'd watch the movie different if you knew the script. So
Right.
her Saturn return is when her marriage started to implode during the filming of Wicked over in England, and she sought solace from a crumbling marriage in her co-star. And this was a Saturnian return. This was a flop era. I'm not denouncing their love for each other. This is the one time she really didn't get the Olympic gold as far as timing. And with that projection, everyone just decided, ha, homewrecker, ha, just they made up so much of a reputation for her that they forgot the character of her and all the other times that she nailed it. And that's what blows is you can be a master, but man, that one oopsie, and all of a sudden everything that you've created as far as how people listen to you is out the door because society's dark side is Schadenfreude and doesn't it suck to suck?
I think she'll be resilient though and keep.
She's doing fine, and it's been enough years. Her Saturn return is 28 to 30. She's now 32. And let's take a look at her final act where we see the way that the bigger elements, the bridge into your fate and your purpose are playing out. The
Mhm.
dudes. Okay. So from our last videos, if you're not watching these, if this is just, a la carte for you, the elements that go into how do you graduate from your skills and your little jobs and your career and you start leaning into purpose and fate and how you truly are originally designed at your purest potential. We need to look at the 10th house, the outer life. If the fourth is your home and your inner world, this is your outer world. She's got the 10th house of career and reputation in Scorpio. And the way that she uses it, because she has a chart that has so much water in it, it's purified by its own element very easily. If she was a mostly fire chart or mostly earth or even air, it would be harder to have these compassions and graces for somebody with such a potent sign. Scorpio gets a bad rap in the zodiac simply because it's
Yeah.
stand. And what are they in charge of? They are in charge, just like Capricorn, of karma in a different sense. So we're looking at a house where, with Scorpio on it, she is going to bring profound strategy. This is where the depth and seeing underneath everything is one of her gifts as far as career. She's got very crystallized goals. If anybody is the most potent and concentrated persona in the zodiac, it's Scorpio. It can be a detriment, it can also be a superpower. She is laser with her goals. When she's on set and she's in charge of her own videos, her own creations, in the studio where she learned from one of her first boyfriends, how to engineer and arrange songs, even though her only instrument is her voice, she's she's got her fingers in all the pies. She is not playing. She knows exactly how to get it done, and she has said, when it's on my watch, there is no budget, whatever it takes. So she's not trying to cut corners and shortchange herself or us by compromising the vision. And I really
Right.
like that fluidity and that freedom around the production. She does her homework. She shows up incredibly researched on things. These aren't
Yeah. No, you
quick,
can see it. It's amazing.
and
Makes
then
sense.
it's also very healing for her to work.
Hmm.
Great placement for her. She's got the planet of Pluto in retrograde there, and so this is going to give her much power, much influence. She will struggle with public life because it's retrograde. She's going to do a shit ton of inner work that we'll never know or see. The only person
Yeah.
who's going to be able to tell herself about it is herself.
Right.
That is such an inside job, maybe her higher power. That's it. She is going to change her own constitution. She is going to melt herself down, alchemize it, and then show up as a new alloy, a new recipe, and yet still retaining an essence, which I find fascinating about her. She's in a state of constant change, and yet there's a theme.
Yeah.
And that's the Jupiter that helps out so much. Let's go to her midhaven here. So this is also in Scorpio, and that is where you start to depersonalize your career and you start to walk across the magic channel into your fate, your calling, your destiny, your divine purpose, whatever you like to call it. The Scorpio on the midheaven gives you this sense of being an enigma, and yet so much authenticity. So even though I don't understand you, I know you're being true and transparent. This is not somebody who's covert and sneaky like some other pop stars in her bracket. And we'll talk about how she,
Well, I think
because
that's the difference between like a 2-4 versus like a 5, like a Taylor Swift is a 5-1.
that's who I'm thinking of, is this whole,
I got, I read your mind.
yeah, you did.
And
Yeah.
and they're both projectors, but a different flavor. Yep.
And both of them have Capricorn and Cancer in their charts in very different areas. So I find one very pure and strategic. I find the other very excessive and, saturated. But
Yeah.
that's my own experience of what they're putting out and the timing of their releases and what they're up to. The the best part of her midheaven in Scorpio is she's going to be drawn to magnetism, magic, and mystery around this transformation into her fate. And I love that. It makes so much sense, not just that she was Glinda the character, but that she was part of a storytelling of an ego death to find somebody's own personal empowerment in the misery.
It's in her own chart, that whole thing,
Yep.
which is really just what is it? You find art in life or life reflects your art. Like, yeah, yeah.
Her to
It's,
embrace her own magnetism, for her to allow it to be a mystery, to not have to know it all and be hyper controlling, and for her to dance in the magic of I'm being used for something bigger is one of the superpowers of having this as your midheaven. And I dig it. It's going to make her hard to decode, but it doesn't make it any less truthful.
right.
It's hard to understand.
It's always truth in the now moment. That's the thing of this, the way she is designed. It's true right now. And if she does something completely different, then it's true right then too. So other people might go, well, it's contradictory. And it's like, no, it was true here, and this is also true. And projectors hold, I always just come back to projectors hold a lot of energy. We can live in a lot of paradox and hold a lot of competing narratives at the same time because one actually doesn't invalidate the other. That's black and white thinking. So yeah, I'm not surprised to see this. Yeah.
So now we've got So we went from her career, we went to her midheaven, and now, of course, the final element is her north node. It's the adventure into the unknown as capital S self, as soul with a legacy.
Hmm.
And it's got two interesting placements. First of all, it's in Sagittarius. Second of all, it's in the 11th house. So while it's flavored with optimism, hope, freedom, and a deep yet formed, very well formed philosophy, the placement of it is this is community and it's metamorphosis and it's bringing the collective together. And so she's already on track. She's already precocious and ahead of the curve and avant-garde around shedding old versions of herself and having the platform of being nominated for an Oscar for her performance in Wicked, and you can't deny it. You can't be like, it's a musical and she's been singing Glinda since she was a tot. No, her timing, her expressions, man, it was tough. Cynthia's voice is golden. It's a national treasure, but Ariana stole the show every single step of it. And she just, the years of mastering her craft. However, with this North Node, she's going even further into the stratosphere. This is somebody who is going to teach us how to alchemize community, how to bring ourselves together in a very different way.
That's her omniscience. Yes.
So beautifully, she did it in her 20s through tragedy, and now she's doing it in her 30s through triumph. And the reason why I'm excited to see her in this kind of film industry, we've got Wicked 2 coming out in November.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep, the conclusion of one of the most beloved children's stories, if we're going to call it that. Of course, it was written for very different reasons, but it's become a childhood classic, is so potent because what are you going to say on a second press junket? I'm expecting her to pick completely different talking points. That she's just going to say, yeah, this is a micro of a macro. I expect her by the, we're getting close to November. There's going to have to be some interview, some conversation, either right before or right after the release. She ain't going to talk about being Glinda. She is not going to talk about the movie and the production and the training and the bond with Cynthia. This is where we're going to hear her, almost like Forrest Gump, break all the braces off and just bolt. That's my prediction for what I
Okay. You heard it right here, folks. You heard it first here.
let's hear her talk some serious. I want to hear some serious awakening and what we need to think about and where we should be pointing our compasses and our North Stars and our ships. And, Ariana, lead the way. And what's
So
beautiful about
cool.
her getting out of pop starness sooner than later is look at her colleagues and peers who are all getting kind of tired. They're running out of things to say. It's been 20 years. We're kind of done. We've gotten older with you, and it's no longer our thing. Justin Timberlake, Justin Bieber, Katy Perry, uh, Taylor Swift. This album only has 12 songs on it, and you can pretend that this is numerology for you, but this doesn't seem like a very strong theme. And then here are all my examples supporting the theme of this album like normal. I'm willing to be
Right.
wrong. It kind of seems like, oh, Beyonce is already stepping back from the whole how prolific musically can I be. We're gonna see her go and jump and do and pivot. Rihanna's on baby number 3. She's done. She's just like, it's been forever. I can only sing about the same thing so many times. There's a beauty to Ariana's knowing when to go home and give us some space and breathing around another album, another album, another album, more songs. Oh, love. Oh, loss in love. Oh, fantasies on love.
Right. Right.
So I'm here for it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. That was so cool. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, I mean, looking at these people and understanding a deeper, another layer of them, looking at their charts. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Please write below the comment. Tell us what you think. And can't wait to see you next week with our fourth person.
Yep. Here we go.
I
Thank you.
know. Absolutely. All right. Bye, guys. Oh,
Yeah.
if you want to work with either one of us, all our information's below. If you want your own cosmic chart read, right? Before we go. Now we're done, and we'll see you later.